Hello everyone, Evan from MonkeyDM here. Villains, they can make or break a story. After all, the heroes can only be as great as the foe they face. And that is especially true in DnD. So, how do we create a great villain? How do we create a villain like Thanos that everybody remembers and not a villain like Roman the Accursor? Who's that guy again? Wow, I forgot he existed. Well, that illustrates my point. We want to make a villain memorable and not the other way around. So let's make sure we make the good kind of bad guys. First thing you're going to want to do is go down below and smash that like button. If you do so, there's a 50% chance that next time Thanos snaps, you will be killed. I would take those odds. So, in D&D, there's mainly two types of villains that your players are going to go against. It's a simplification, but bear with me. The first kind is the one-dimensional villain. These are your villains that are evil for the sake of being evil. They like to inflict as much pain and suffering as possible. There is no possible redemption for them. They want to make people suffer. A perfect example of this in D&D would be Mind Flayers. As per written in the books, Mind Flayers cannot be good. Their thinking is so far removed from the way we think and act that there is just no possible way of turning them around. What do I mean? They eat brain for a living. Pretty difficult diet to maintain if you want to be a good person, right? In addition to that, their brilliant intellect makes them what humans are compared to ants. They view humans and other humanoid species as ants, and when we kill an ant, for example, we don't do it out of malice, we don't do it because we enjoy killing the ants, or at least most of us don't. We do it because it's probably annoying, it's something in the way. Life would be better if the ant wasn't there. And that's exactly how they think. Except that on top of that, they eat said ants. But you know, that's the idea. So those villains are really easy to make. The way you're going to go to create them is just you take like a monster, an archetype, a person, and you add one of the following adjectives to them. They can be charismatic, they can be handsome, they can be manipulative. This is starting to sound a lot like my ex. But you get the idea. Evil plus another adjective and boom, you get your one-dimensional villain. It's not going to be the most memorable villain, but if you play your cards right and you make it go personal against the players, your players will remember that villain. But now let's move on to the juicy part. The other kind of villains, which are the multi-dimensional villains. When we think about the MCU, the villain we think about directly is Thanos. And it's not because of his brilliant looks, but because of his drive. He's a motivated villain. The reason why Thanos works great in the MCU, or Strahd works great in Curse of Strahd, is because of their depth. Let me explain. Those villains are similar but also very different. Let's start with the differences. Thanos saw his world be destroyed because of overpopulation. So he came to the conclusion that we need to remove half of the population of the universe to save the world. He views himself as a tragic hero. He says it himself, others call him a madman, but he thinks that what he's doing is right. Strahd, on the other hand, was a man that was scared of dying. He was getting old. And so he made a pact to prolong his life, because he was afraid. On top of that, he was supposed to get the love of his life in the process. In the end, it all backfired. He murdered his brother, lost the love of his life, and is now stuck as a vampire. And he has a severe case of the depression. So, as we can see, they're quite different. But what's the thing that they have in common? We relate to them. That is so key. We understand where they're coming from. We might not agree. Probably we wholeheartedly disagree with their way of doing things. But we understand that maybe, just maybe, if we spent a day in their shoes, we would perhaps reach the same conclusions. Perhaps not. But there is an element of relatability here, and that is very, very crucial. Now the next thing is, your villain has a clear motivation, but that motivation needs to be in conflict with the heroes. And I don't mean like it could go around and the heroes could turn the villains to their ways, or it could merge at some point, because in that case, best case scenario, you get an anti-hero, worst case scenario, you get an ally. This is not a villain. What we want is a motivation that clashes completely with the party. There is no redeeming that person. There is no way they're going to change their motivation. They are too dedicated to their cause or their belief. So now we have a villain. We can relate to him. He has motivation and goals which are clearly opposed to the party, which involve killing multiple innocents, for example. So we cannot let that run. How do we go about making it memorable, making it the party remember? We show the actions of the villains in the world. So, a mild spoiler for Critical Role ahead. If you haven't clicked off, I'm assuming that you're willing to listen. Glorenzo, in the second season of Critical Role, is one of the first major villains that is introduced. And the way he's introduced and what makes him memorable are his actions. He kidnaps 3 members of the Mighty Nein, so it makes it personal already. The other heroes already have a teeth against him. Then when they go and they fight him, he kills another member of the party. Oh, now it's really personal. See what I mean? The villain had actions, his goons kidnapped people, he killed someone that was dear to the party saw the evil he was capable of, and that had an impact on them. They will remember that. So what you want to do is have your villain have actions in the world. It can be like Curse of Strahd, for example, where we don't see Strahd directly, but we hear a lot of people talking about all the evil things that Strahd did, or what his goons are doing inside of the world, killing and doing horrible things in his name. This is something you can do. And I know some of us were like, oh no, I'm going to make a hidden villain and nobody's not going to know who's the villain until the end. It's not a great way to go about it because it doesn't build up any tension. Your party has no reason to really hate that person. There's no actual conflict there because we don't know he exists. So for your villain to be good, they need to exist in the world. They need to have actions and consequences. And one last bonus tip, if you really, really want your party to remember your villain, you make it go personal. It's one thing to know that the dragon is killing people and that's bad and he's evil. It's another thing to have to watch your entire village be burned down to the ground and your family scream in agony and your child burn because the dragon's fury happened to fall upon them. Now that's personal. Now you hate that flippin' dragon. You don't have to go as low, but usually villains that go very low, the players will tend to hate more. So, those were some tips on how to make good villains in D&D. I hope that was helpful to you. If you liked the video, make sure to like it, subscribe. I have selected a video especially for you. You can click here to get it, click here to subscribe. And if you want to see more homebrew D&D content, it's down below. I have fantastic adventures, monsters, and all the shebang. Evan out.